Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I'm your host, Mike Veerman. I'm here with my friend and trusted producer, Max Kerman. We're also here with our pop culture aficionado, Shane Christian Cunningham. And on the dials is intern Erica. Erica, are you still feeling the effects of the Vancouver mountains?
This is going to be the question for the end of time.
Well, I'm always curious because when you on vacation, people come back refreshed. And for me, it fades in about 48 hours. Are you still feeling the vibes?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
I think so.
Nice.
I want it to last as long as possible.
And what's the biggest change in your life again?
Like since I've been back?
No, like since the mountains have had its effect. Like what do you think the number one change? Like you said, it changed you.
Like my outlook, probably. I just feel, I
It's a little
actually don't
generic,
feel
though.
like super compelled to like drink.
No?
You don't need to drink.
I haven't like craved a drink
You're
since I've
high
been
on your
back.
own supply.
Yeah.
That's great.
Which is weird because as you guys probably know, I like to indulge.
Uh-huh.
Dude.
So
Like to party.
You're
That's
getting,
cool.
You're
Yeah.
getting to a healthier spot.
maybe I'll start, I don't know.
You are
Yeah.
drinking something right now, though, which we won't mention.
Yeah, but it's just a little
Something for the podcast.
post work, you know. I'm gone.
Yeah, we've all worked hard today. Speaking of today, a lot is going on. Before we get into topics or actually what Max and I did today, because Max and I did something very cool today, which we'll get to, I want to give a big shout out to Lucy Cunningham. Front page of the Hamilton Spectator. This was a huge deal. I was going through my old Insta, actually in the Champagne Boys group. Everybody was talking about it. There was a
Physical copy too, and Twitter and digital.
like a proud data. It looked like you bought 3 physical copies of the Spectator.
That was my sister, actually.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
Proud
actually
aunt.
so. Explain what it was.
So Lucy went to a climate rally. Actually, Max, could you explain what it was? I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure what it was. I know there's like a Swedish girl or something, and
We'll get there too.
okay. So you explain what it was.
Well, basically, there's been the climate conference summit is happening in New York City, and there's been a bunch of protests all around the world.
Marches around the
I should
world,
call
yeah.
it. And Hamilton, I think Hamilton's having another one on Friday as well, because I heard a bunch of McMaster students are going to be downtown.
Cool.
But yeah, so Lucy took the bus downtown by herself.
Didn't tell her parents.
No.
It's like Lucy went to the march.
No, she went with her mom.
Oh, okay.
And her mom made the sign too.
Is it weird? I always think, is it weird to say went with her mom as opposed to
Her
my
mom
wife?
went with her. Oh, okay.
Lucy drove. Did you
My
know
wife,
that
yeah.
your wife Alex was
Partner?
taking the baby
Sorry,
to the
partner?
climate march?
By the way, partner?
Sorry, Max is still on a tangent
Yeah,
here.
he's-
Mike, could you repeat that?
Did you know that Alex was taking Lou to the march?
My partner, Alex. My wife. Yeah, we got married. Also Lucy's mom. But I knew something was up because she messaged me to help her with copy for the signs. And then Alex didn't like any of my copies. So she's like, no, I got it. And then, because I had a line like, I want you to change my diaper, not the planet. And then Alex is like, I got something better than that, but it's diaper related. And then she's like, the one that really was the big hit, because she had 2 signs made, and it was just debating which one will actually grab headlines, because that was Alex's actual like goal. Besides spreading positivity.
Oh,
I guess.
it was to have
To
a
go
cute baby.
viral. Yes. So it said, I want a warm bottle. No. Yeah, I want a warm bottle, not a warm earth.
Yeah.
And
Global warming.
so we were very curious, would Lucy actually hold the sign? Because you're not going to go viral if the baby's not holding the sign. It can't just be a mom and like, oh, I've got a baby, and you're kind of pressing the sign up against the baby's chest. But Lucy is such, can you call a baby an attention whore?
You know, that's going to be the title of this episode. She's a little ham.
Yeah, Lucy's a little cute ham. And when she saw that people with signs were getting a little bit of attention, Lucy just grabbed the sign and ran in front of everybody and was like, "Rah, look at me." And then she noticed there's a photographer.
How old's your child? Lou's like 1.5.
She's almost 17 months.
Okay,
But
go.
Lou she knows a camera. Like you probably know.
Yeah,
like your
yeah,
daughter
they-
knows when there's a camera.
They know
out.
now when you're pointing a thing at them to take.
And
a photo.
she's part of a blog, so Lucy really knows how to pose, and she gets excited, and she knows she gets rewarded for doing a good pose, like with a smile and a laugh and everything. So she sees the photographer, and she just runs right up in front and holds the sign up and goes, "Ron!" Everyone's like cheering and taking photos of Lucy without asking, but we're cool with it because we go there for attention. And sure enough, she made the front page of the Hamilton Spectator,
Damn.
which is our big local newspaper.
Yeah.
And then Alex put up a photo of her, a separate photo, a personal photo that she took, and put it on her blog, This Family Tree, and it ended up getting over 5,000 likes.
Woo!
And hundreds of comments, but huge backlash.
Oh.
So you think, oh, what would be the backlash? And then there's people like, that baby doesn't even know what that sign says. It's like, yeah, no shit. And it's like, how dare you indoctrinate her mind before she can make a decision for herself? How about you wait till she grows up and then she can have her own views on climate change? And it's kind of like, oh, like I see your point, kind of, but there really is no, like, let's say we're all wrong about climate change, like. There's no harm in recycling and stuff, even if we are wrong, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
feels like
it's like, isn't it better to be safe than sorry? Basically, is what you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like what's the harm? If it turns out we're all like every scientist has been wrong about this for the last 30 years, but we did some good recycling, then
It was a noble pursuit. Yeah. Well, here's the flip side. Let's say that the climate deniers, turns out they were wrong. We're all fucked.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather err on the side of people that are thinking that there might be an issue and trying to prevent it now.
It's funny you say that, because that was another thing that got her in hot water, was somebody had a sign in the background that said, "We're fucked." So it was like, real nice protest. We're fucked. I thought this was about positivity. And it's like, yeah, but you're like, this is so bad, let's be good. It's kind of like that. And then someone was like, oh, bringing your baby to a very loud rally and with all these people, and it was like, it wasn't actually a loud rally. So
it's interesting. I have had a similar kind of thing to you on the internet in the last week. I had 2 Twitter posts, and oh yeah, the first one, I was flying home from LA. I just bought the Malcolm Gladwell book, and I just tweeted. It was the most harmless tweet in my opinion. I said, really looking forward to this book. I know some of the smart people really bristle at Malcolm Gladwell, but I find him to be really like curious and joyful, and always leads to hours of conversation.
You alienated the dummies who like Malcolm Gladwell. They're like, we're not smart.
No. But I call myself a dummy in saying like I like his thing. And then somebody basically posted a transcript of an interview he did with Bill Simmons, and there's a controversial excerpt
Sandusky,
where he was talking with Jerry Sandusky, which I'm not going to get into, but I do recommend.
It's on Deadspin if you want to go follow this sort of.
And
thread.
I just read the chapter, and that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But basically, I tweeted back at this fella, and because I checked out his Twitter, and I was like, this guy, I can tell he likes the same stuff I like the stuff he's sharing. I'm like, we agree. So I texted him back. I said, I genuinely don't know what you'd like me to do with this tweet. I can either A, stop reading Malcolm Gladwell and Bill Simmons. I can B, stop sharing them. C, I can improve the ratio of goofy Twitter endorsements versus serious ones, because maybe you want me to be serious on my Twitter. Please advise, and I'll do it. I'll just do it. And then he said, hey, no, it's cool. I don't want to tell you what to do. Yeah, no, it's all good. I like Gladwell too. And then, so that happened. And then another person criticized me I asked another kind of innocent question. I said, who's a politician that is considered progressive but also not considered condescending? It's in the Venn diagram, because usually if you're a progressive, like, smart person, you're also, some people will think you're condescending. It was just like an innocent question. And then someone said, stick to music, man. Don't put your politics in. And I was like, I was really not trying to inject any of my own personal politics. It was just a genuine question. What do you think I should do next time? How much should I be able to talk about or just like muse on politics on my Twitter? Please advise, and I'll do it.
I saw this, and they were like, good, because once I start knowing politics, I start disliking the bands I like or something.
No, that was a different, I don't know about that one. But I just said, please advise, and I'll do it. And they said, no, man, you're smarter than me. It's cool. Do whatever you want. So basically, I think if you just tell someone to tell you exactly what to do, and you just give them full control, They just don't know what to do, and they go, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. I apologize." Because people just like to criticize, but they don't like to give any solutions. I find often when it comes to like Twitter arguing.
Yeah, and people are not expecting to be confronted.
Yeah.
They're just like, I'm just going to throw this in the garbage. And then you're like picking it up and being like, excuse me. You're like, oh, sorry, I dropped that by accident.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. So anyway, Twitter, man.
So do you want to get to what we did today, or
Yeah, let's talk
we
about
were
it.
also going to discuss Ad Astra, the Brad Pitt film, but I
Oh,
don't know if
you
we're
know-
going to go too deep on.
You know
that.
what? I kind of this is a homework assignment for all of our listeners. Just go see Ad Astra. The reason why I want this, I have an idea. Maybe it's a bad idea. I want you to prepare like a 5-minute review that you
Sure.
write and that you recite on air. And I want Matt Fruckman, Book Club Matty, to prepare a 5-minute review of Ad Astra because you guys have exact opposite reviews.
Yeah.
I think you guys have the best taste in movies that I know. You guys are like so well read when it comes to pop culture, your movie acumen. You guys, if I think of two people that love movies, it's you two and Shane and Greg. So there, and it was just so funny that
Max was getting a look from Shane.
anyway, it just shocked me. And also, there was a father-son dynamic, and you guys both lost your dad at the age of 60. Like, you guys have a lot in common,
Right.
in that respect. And you guys gave me exact opposite reviews. So I kind of
Interesting.
want you guys to do that.
So
together.
now I don't get to hear about the movie?
no,
Can I hear from you?
no. Well, wait till the next episode.
Just did you like it?
I thought, but then I want to get to how I feel about it because I want to know. I'm sort of investigating my own feelings on this as to what do I actually like because
You really let people tell you how to think and feel,
very,
eh?
very gullible.
Tell me and I'll do it.
You tell me how
I'll
to feel
feel
about
it.
the movie, and I will feel
Well,
that
no,
way.
Matt loved it, and he saw it twice. He saw it for a second time with me because he's like, "I'll go again. I'll go with you,
Yeah.
Max." And then you said you hated it. I'm like, "What do I feel about it?"
I did not hate it.
Okay, whatever. We'll save it.
You just told everyone.
Well, my review is nuanced. I mean, I could read exactly what it came out of. Was I sent Max a text right after I got to the film because I knew he saw it on the Friday. I went on the Saturday, and then I sat and I thought about how I felt about the film, and then I just wrote a quick little paragraph, shot it to Max, and he was like, "Save this for the pod."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I had an idea for a bit where Matt and
Yeah.
Mike argue about it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I certainly don't hate it, and I don't think it's a bad movie, but I have thoughts.
Yeah. Okay, save it.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring Matt in. It'll be good.
Okay, so
But let's talk about our day because it was a fun day.
okay, this was a crazy day for me. This was actually, I'm still kind of buzzing, even though this thing happened like 9 hours ago. I was getting out of the shower this morning, and my phone binged, and I had a text from Max, and it was because you've become really good friends, as our listeners know, with Nick Nurse. the
I
head
wouldn't say
coach of
really
the
good
Raptors.
friends, but like we're text buddies.
You're
Who
pals.
likes who more?
Well, here's the thing: is that like Nick Nurse is Canada's most beloved coach at this moment in time, and generally very well liked everywhere he goes, and has been coaching for 30 years. So I don't want to be the person to bother him ever. Like we had this great moment in the summer when he came on stage with our Kells. We've kept in touch. But I don't want to be the guy going, "Hey Nick, what's going on?" Like I don't want to be texting him like
You don't want to bother Nick
I don't want to
Nurse.
bother him.
He's got-
But if he wants to chat with me, of course, I'd love to talk music with him, talk basketball with him. I'm up for that, of course, because I'm obviously a big fan of him, and I find him truly to be a very sweet, genuine, sincere, curious kind of guy.
Yeah.
So he'll drop me a line from time to time. We were texting on WhatsApp when he was over in China with Team Canada because he was coaching the Canadian national men's basketball team. And then I never checked my WhatsApp, and then I realized on Monday, yesterday, he had texted me on WhatsApp on Friday saying, "Hey, you back, bro?" Because he knew I was in LA because I was texting him when we were down there. And then I texted him on iMessage. I was like, "Oh, sorry, this is really annoying." Sorry.
And then what?
So basically,
And then this happened,
and
and
then sorry.
Then we're on MySpace.
and then my phone binged, and it was
Then
Nick.
I
and he said
hotmailed
hi.
him. Then we switched over to Gmail. Here's where the Twitter DMs got extra spicy, though.
Sorry. Long story
He
short,
was like, "Do you
You
have
were
ICQ, bro?"
communicating over various devices.
Are you on
What were you
MSN?
saying?
So he said, "Hey, do you want to come by? The guys are scrimmaging today. If you want to come by, you can come by and watch the Raptors practice. A bunch of the guys are in town." So I take a screenshot of that, send it to Mike, because I know Mike would appreciate this more than anybody I know. And we have a lot of Basketball 11 friends.
We do.
Mike is at the top.
Does WhatsApp alert on screenshots, though?
No, we are on iMessage.
Oh, I see.
That's why it's important, bro.
So Nick is inviting Max to go to the OVO Athletic Center where the Raptors, a bunch of them are in town. Training camp starts on Saturday, but guys are in early for this sort of like voluntary thing to show up. I didn't know really what to expect other than the fact that there was going to be a bunch of Raps there and Nick Nurse. And I just didn't know. I've never even been inside like the OVO. Like who's been inside the Raptors, for those of you that don't live in the city, have this like beautiful practice facility right downtown here that's not as a part of the ACC.
Yeah,
it's
it's near Ontario Place kind of thing, that direction.
So I was like, are you serious? Like, Max, like, do you want to come with me? I'm going to go watch the team practice and kind of see how one of these things does. Like, it's a closed door sort of like camp. I was like, fuck yes. This is amazing.
Yeah, it was like 9:15 or 9:30.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to be there for 11. I was in Hamilton at this point.
You were in Hamilton. I was in Toronto. He's like, all right, I'll drive out. I'll meet you at the OVO Athletic Center at 11 o'clock. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I get ready. I go to work, and then I leave work. I jump in an Uber, go down. Again, I don't know what to expect. I meet up with Max. We go like walking up. We're both kind of like giddy. Like I'm like, this is my Christmas right now. I'm like, I can't believe this. Nick's assistant Jenny comes out and like greets us.
Couldn't be sweeter.
The
Shouts to Jenny.
Nicest person in the world. We go in there. I'm like, oh wow, like there's the big Raptors logo, and we're going through the hallway, and I'm thinking, because it's like two decks. There's like an observation deck where like I guess when visitors come, they put them up on the second floor, and you can look down on the two courts. But she walks us like to the main court area, and she's like, oh, this is so and so, and he'll walk you through. And then we're now in the gym. I walk in, to my right, there's Stanley Johnson, who the Raptors just signed. He's putting up threes. Oh shit, there's OG Anunoby. He's putting up shots. And they just walk us across the court as dudes are doing work on one court. We go to the next court. There's like a little middle part where you can like sit in chairs and observe. And we're just like standing there at like there's like a scores table, and Max and I are like, we're on the floor, and all these NBA players like Pascal Siakam, you see Freddie Van
Probably
Vliet.
20 guys there.
There's like 20 guys there. They're doing different types of drills, and they have all the coaches and assistant coaches. They're all doing their thing, and Max and I are kind of like there in like our jeans, and like, you know, I'm wearing a jean coat, but everybody else is in like we're the only two guys that aren't affiliated with the team that are just standing there.
Would it have been weirder if you were in athletic gear, though?
It's like, are these guys training with us? I hope not.
But it's like we weren't in like I feel like executives or like somebody that visits the team. Usually it's in a business capacity.
Oh, you're
like,
in that awkward middle ground.
It's
where,
like these aren't brand partnership people. These aren't suits. These aren't athletic. It's like, what are these guys, right?
They're not reporters because there was no reporters there.
No, like these guys aren't press. So then I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. And Nick happens to be across the court. And so I'm like, oh, I guess we'll just kind of stand here. And Nick's like in the middle of running sort of a practice. And Max is like, yeah, I don't know. He'll probably like come over when he's done or whatever. Then like mid scrimmage, Nick, big wave over to Max, and then just cuts across the court, beelines it to Max, like stops what he's doing while everything's still scrimmaging. Gives Max a huge hug. I'm like, this is wild. Max like, oh, it's my friend Mike. I'm like, oh, Nick, how's it going? Nice to meet you. He's like, yeah, nice to meet you too. Nicest guy in the world. We just start like talking shop. He's sort of explaining the drill they're running, asking.
It's the best. Yeah, and he's like, just.
What was the drill?
They were running a bunch of drills not 3-man weave. A bunch of drills I hadn't seen before.
No look pass drills.
But when we walk in, the Doobie Brothers are playing.
Yeah.
Like, ooh,
Like live or on the radio?
and I know he's a big fan of like classic rock and blues and 70s and 80s music and stuff. I was like, Nick, are you DJing this practice right now? Who's picking this up? He's like, no, we brought our own DJ. We're the only team in the NBA that's got its own DJ.
Points to the corner, and there's a guy on some decks.
Oh, did that piss you off?
No, but because no, you tell it.
So he points to the thing, and he's like, yeah, we're the only team in the NBA that's got our own DJ. So he's playing tunes, and then we kind of continue talking. We start to hear Leather Jacket comes on. Nick Nurse goes, I told him you were coming.
Oh, my God.
So you think there's going to be... So literally, the NBA players are scrimmaging, doing fucking 3-man reads, like you said, no look pass, to like...
It was like I think this is Drake's dad.
Drake's dad was
11, Leather Jacket, knocking at the door, all in a row.
All in a row.
Whoa.
It was in our Kel's playlist while the Raptors were doing their thing. Anyway, it was just
Did they
so
get pumped up to any song, like knocking at the door?
Yeah, Freddie Van Fleet was like, I love this shit. No, he did not say.
I will say one of the guys, not one of the main guys, but one of the like sort of the camp invite guys, was grooving and knocking at the door. I meant to tell you that. I saw him like kind of like doing a thing as the song was picking up and momentum. So then I'm like, okay, Nick's gonna sort of like stand here with us for 5 minutes, and then go back to like running the practice. Nick ends up chatting with us like. Super cool. Talking music, talking sports. We're talking about stuff from the playoffs. We're talking about
like coaching philosophy.
Coaching philosophies, like how he like manages certain sort of situations with players. Like, and it's that fine line where I'm like, I don't want to geek out. Like, I don't want to like bombard him. And he probably talks basketball all the time. And I don't want to seem like I'm Mike on Muching him, where I'm like, and then what'd you think about this? And it has to be conversational, you know. But he was talking about traveling because, like Max said, they were in Australia and China for Team Canada. It was about his wife and his kids traveling with him. And we're just a real conversation. Max was like, oh, Mike actually has an 11-month-old. I was like, oh, and I was talking about starting daycare. And then he was talking about, it was just like this real kind of connection moment, which then turned into like, what, an hour and a half conversation?
Yeah, he just basically stopped paying attention. No, he wasn't not paying attention to practice because he was dialed in. Like,
and every once in a while, mid-sentence, he'd be like, oh, missed the pass. Like, in the scrimmage, he's watching the game go on, or an assistant would come up and say something, and he'd be like, yeah, you need that. And then he would come back to, like, chatting with us.
Who did he talk to more, you or Mike?
you know what? Naturally, because he knows me better, like, you'd think that I might get 85% of the attention. But I didn't, and I'm cognizant because often that happens with me in social situations, just with my spot in the band. But I thought he was very good at giving his attention to both of us.
It felt like
It felt like an honest three.
Are we saying 50-50?
Yeah, it's 60-40.
Yeah.
Towards you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a testament to, I mean, Mike's a great hang, but also Nick just being like that kind of person who's used to talking to people in groups.
Right.
Yeah, it was, what else? It was so much
great
fun.
stories, like really insightful, really great guy, funny guy, like jokes. Like we were making jokes on the sideline.
Let's
like,
hear a joke.
Having laughs. Well, I mean, this is the thing. You know, it's funny too because Max and I were like, are we gonna like talk about like our experience? And it's like it's that fine line where it's like you don't want to come on a podcast and like be like, because it's like we kind of got to do this really fun thing, and Max is pals with this guy, so it's like you come on and it's like, and then we talked about this, and then we talked about that. It's like, well, no, the conversation was amongst. You know,
Private.
The one thing I'll say is that
not anything salacious or crazy.
Yeah,
but just
no,
like,
it was all just fun. It was just mostly NBA nerd stuff. It was
Yeah.
like, what do you think of this guy? And he was just kind of giving his honest take, and it was so much fun. But the one thing that I asked him about, which I thought was interesting, which I don't think is a surprise to anybody, but it was still cool for him to say it, was like, you know, you just got back from China coaching Team Canada. You obviously had a long playoff run. It's like, do you ever get tired or does this pump you up? He says, no, I love this. Like, I'll do this all the time. The only time I've ever been tired is after we won the championship. And I had to do all this, like these interviews and the parade and everything. He was like, your show. He was like, when I woke up that Saturday morning, I was about to call it in. I was about to quit.
he's gonna cancel.
Yeah, I was going to cancel.
Oh my
because
God.
it was like, it's like, anyway, it just really made me appreciate how much these guys just truly love the competition. They love the camaraderie. They love the rhythm of practice. They love the schedule. They love just the
problem solving of the puzzle. It's like they have a season coming up, and he's got to fit these pieces and sort of like that piece of it. You know? Like,
they love it, and it was cool just to see them react to players make or miss shots. Go, oh, he's having a tough day. Like, everything is important. It's like it's all part of it. So it's like, I know for us, it's like we think of the regular season as a slog, and we think about how is the team going to do in the playoffs. But it's like for these guys, just like they're always competing all the time, and as you say, they're always trying to figure out the puzzle. And I love that. It was so much fun.
Well, when they finally scrimmaged, they had like the first unit of like the guys that would be the starters. Kyle and Serge and Mark weren't there, but everybody else from the team was there. So they kind of had like a white team and a dark team, which was like the second unit. And it's like, so we're still just talking, shooting the shit, having a great time. And then every once in a while, he'd be like, one more. Like he wants the extra pass to go, but then somebody would like drive or put up a shot or something that maybe wasn't the best shot. But he was always just like, it almost reminded me of like when like we're watching a game on TV together and we're having a conversation about something completely unrelated. And then I'll weirdly yell at the TV about like a blown assignment or when you didn't make the extra pass. He would just sort of say that every once in a while to him. It's like, it was very fascinating. And like I said, the assistants would come up and he'd be like, okay, let's get that to happen, blah, blah, blah. So it was kind of like he was managing that, but then also just having like a fun hang.
Does he ever get hot, you think? Like, come on. Like, coaches are notoriously intimidating.
We actually talked about that a little bit.
discussed that.
But yeah, he, like you said, time to time. He's like, I like to have a good time. I think it should be like a joyful thing, but occasionally I'll lay it in.
So we've been probably standing there for like an hour or whatever. It was like the greatest experience, especially for like a mega basketball nerd to like literally Pascal Siakam was sitting far away from me as Max is right now. Like
it was a testament to sort of the stimulation you're getting, Mike, because we had Nick Nurse like talking to us, and at some points Nick Nurse was not good enough for you. You were looking at the players on the court, trying to like evaluate their performance,
100%.
the plays. I was like, this is really saying something. The coach of your beloved Toronto Raptors is mentioning something to you, and you're not even paying attention because the only thing that could get your attention more than the coach was what's happening.
Well,
on the court.
I'm like, is Norm Powell making good choices with the ball? How does Rondé Hollis Jefferson look? I'm like, Stanley Johnson, is he going to be a shooter or just a defender? Like, I really was, but I was paying attention. At one point, I actually felt you nudging me too.
Yeah.
Max actually nudged me because it's like, Nick Nurse is talking, Mike. And then so I'm like, right, re-engage. It's like being out with Danica. It's like sometimes where it's like, Mike, we're in a conversation here. But so then Max is like, and Max has a really good, I think, sense for like, let's wrap this up. You want to get out while everyone feels good. Whereas like me, I literally would still be there right now if it was just me. And so Max is like, all right, we have to get going. So he's like, oh, you guys, you got to wrap it up. He's like, okay, but before you go, just one more thing. We're like, okay. Brings us over to his office. He has like a coach's office that overlooks the whole practice
So he's leaving
gym.
practice at this point?
Yes.
Well, it overlooks the court.
It overlooks the court. He has
Okay.
windows that look at the court or whatever. But at this point, the scrimmages are like wrapped. They're kind of like just getting individual work. Like the practice was winding down.
Yeah.
But he's like, come check out my office. We're like, okay, this is cool. We go into the office. He's got a piano in the corner. Max has talked about how the reason they connected is because
Yeah, we hooked him with that piano.
you guys hooked him up with the piano. He's got like this beautiful Fender. Was it Telly or was it Strat? I can't remember. It was a Telly.
It was Strat.
Was it Strat?
No, sorry, it was a Telly.
It was, yeah. So it was a telly in the corner, and so we go in there. His office is great. He's got all these cool books, and he's got like kind of like a bunch of paintings and some stuff on the wall. And what do they have? But a beautiful framed photo of him on stage with Arkells.
We had sent him a photo, and he put it in his
nice.
office.
It was beautiful. And Max goes to the piano and he starts playing a couple licks. And then me and Nick literally sit down in the chairs. And I go, sing us a song, Maxie. And like Nick started laughing. And then Max like, nah. And he just kind of played. And then Max kind of started noodling on the guitar. And then we just sat and talked for another 20 minutes, just shooting the shit. It was the experience of a lifetime if you're like a basketball nerd. And man, like what a way to start the day when literally I didn't even know, like just so random.
It just happened.
And yeah, it was like, yeah, that's the sort of thing that like people would pay like a fortune for that experience.
Yeah,
just, like,
it
that
was
time.
it was one of those times where you're like, you feel so lucky. Like the whole day has been amazing.
Also, I will say the thing that happens is because like you've been talking with him and you sort of hung out with him a bit, so it humanized him a bit. I obviously experience and consume basketball in a very one-sided way, meaning like I watch it on TV, I go to games, but I have no real connection or relationship with anybody. Spending time like that with Nick Nurse really humanizes somebody, and then you go like, oh yeah, it's like I watch you on TV and I have my opinions, but it's like when you hang out, you go, you're a dude, like you're a cool guy. It's like you get to know someone a little bit, like you get a vibe or a feeling of their personality, and it's like, oh, like I'm pleasantly surprised. You don't always walk away from experience like that and be like, you know, I'm like, that was like, I would love to have a drink with that guy or go for dinner with that guy, just because it's like, just like us, he likes telling stories and shooting the shit and like laughing at stories and like sort of engaging in the same way that all of us would at a bar.
Yeah, what I'm drawn to with Nick Nurse, and I've met Babcock before too, and I think he has this as well, is that there's such a boyish enthusiasm for just being around your friends and your team and strategizing, and it's like I just love it. You know, Nick Nurse is probably 52, Babs is probably in his 60s at this point, but he's just like their youthful enthusiasm is so prevalent, and I find that to be such an attractive characteristic in anybody. Like, and I always look for that. Like with everybody I collaborate with in band stuff, especially, it's just like, do you have that sort of like energy for like wanting to figure out the next thing and being a part of something bigger than yourself? And Nick Nurse like really has that, you know, because like I was saying to Mike, I was like, I must be like, you know, number 275 on the list of people he could text, right? But clearly he like just likes being in touch with people, likes learning.
Imagine everyone else just said no though. Drake, nope, not again. Nope.
Yeah, anyway, it was awesome. It was so cool.
Which player in person is more the most impressive?
Oh, this is good.
I'll say this: OG looks ripped. OG's big.
Does
right?
he play shirtless? In
No,
practice?
none of them were shirtless. But OG, like, you know, but they're all wearing like the sort of like skin tight
you can
Under
tell.
Armour
Yeah.
stuff. So he was ripped. Pascal was very big. I thought Pascal looked very big.
Like tall or muscular?
Both. Both. Like he looked like a bigger human, because sometimes on TV he looks like
He
really
can look very
skinny.
thin, yeah.
You would have been impressed with like sort of his size. I don't know if he bulked up over the summer, but he looked big. He looked good. Freddie, although, what were you gonna say, Max? You just pointed at me.
Honestly, Freddie impressed me the most, which is insane because Freddie Van Fleet, he's like 6 feet tall. He's one of the shortest.
You're
guys
taller
in the
than
league.
Freddie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the thing: is that describe who would have been at the camp, because it was not all the Raptors were there, and there was a bunch of guys they invited to camp. So it was like 20 guys.
Yeah.
10 of those guys are not going to make the team.
Yeah, there's a few of them that won't, and then there's a bunch of guys under contract or partial contract. So there's guys that are fighting for their sort of NBA. They really want to be on the roster when training camp opens on Saturday. A few of them will be sent home.
Yeah. So all these guys that we were watching today all went to D1 schools. They were all probably the best player on their team, or the top 2 or 3 players on their team. They all, when they're warming up, all can hit threes, or everyone's and can dunk, and they just look so physically impressive and so skillful. But once the game started,
The scrimmages.
Fred VanVleet had a command of the game that he was so clearly better than the 7 other guards that were there. Like just the way
Like butter through traffic. Like he was getting layups, like Euro step, left-hand layups, like just cutting through stuff that like when you're watching other guys run the exact same stuff, they couldn't get to the rim,
Yeah, the fact that he's not physically necessarily gifted.
No, but he
it's all the more
had a
impressive.
thing about him where he was taking practice really seriously.
Yeah.
Nick said he's like the ultimate competitor, and I was just like, man, I played basketball this afternoon with Shad, my old pal Shad, who used to host CBCQ. He's an amazing rapper. And Lights, his husband Bo, who's in a band, and Ernesto, who is the trombone player in Arkells. The 4 of us played at Christie Pitts. And Ernesto was like, man, I'm playing in a men's league, and Ernesto's really good. He's like 6'3". He's lefty, and he's like, man, but this is like, these guys are like dunking in the league. Like these guys all probably played college ball.
in this pickup league he's playing in.
Yeah, he's playing in a men's league in Toronto tonight. And I was just thinking, I was like, Ernesto, who I think to be a pretty good fucking basketball player, is afraid of the guys he's going to play tonight. The guys he's playing tonight wouldn't hold a candle against the guys we watched play this out.
Who won't make the league.
Who won't make the league. Yeah, and those guys could hardly hold a candle to Fred VanVleet. And then we think of Fred VanVleet, cute little Fred VanVleet.
Backup point guard.
Backup point guard on the Toronto Raptors who happen to have a good playoff run.
No,
Anyway,
he's a killer.
it's just like, you really appreciate how impressive these guys are.
Actually, one funny moment was so when they're doing the scrimmage, there's like so the sort of first unit comes down and Norm cuts to the basket. Norm Powell, he gets hit with a pass, one dribble through traffic, goes up, slam dunk, left hand, just bang, right, and then they all start running on the thing. It was very impressive, especially when we were that up close. And then Nick Nurse just leans into me and Max. He goes, "Wouldn't it be nice to be able to do that?" We were like, "Yeah, it'd be awesome," like, yeah.
But he wasn't saying it like at us. He was like including himself.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, just like, wouldn't it be nice to be able to have that skill? It was a real delight.
I feel like, you hear all these like blowhards call into like the Fan 590 after a Raptors or a Leafs game and go, oh, so-and-so doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. It's like, when you get like Nick walked us through his day, like when you get a sense of how much these guys live and breathe this shit, no one would ever call in to the Fan 590 ever again with a complaint with the coach. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's just like, you realize, like, oh, wait a second. I think I like hockey or I like basketball. But these guys literally not only, like, most of them played it, but have been thinking about it every waking hour their whole life. Like, he's been thinking and living and breathing basketball literally every hour of his adult life.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm exaggerating right now.
No, I know what you mean. Like, it's like,
it's like, and it's awesome. Like, and then you go, okay, you can't say that you didn't try your fucking hardest and you don't care more about it than anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of like armchair quarterbacks are people that sit up from, and they're like, why didn't they do that? Or they're not thinking about this. And I've certainly been guilty of it in moments of craziness. It's like, whatever you can think of, they've thought about it. They do this 24/7. Like, you watch them. He walked us through his day. You watch the sort of work they put in, and you're like, yeah, like obviously they're thinking about it and they're doing it. And it was amazing. And huge shout out to Nick Nurse and to you, Maxie boy.
Yeah,
Thanks for bringing old Mike there.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, it's a good time.
He'll be a champagne boy soon enough.
I hope so.
Will he come on the pod?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I was saying to Max as we were leaving, I was like, I feel like we burned a whole podcast. I was like, if we had been like, say that conversation was like sitting down and having that conversation, but I also think that it's like, it was a more candid conversation because it wasn't
Yeah, it
in
was
a
so
press
nice that
setting.
way, yeah.
And like, it's like, it did like quickly switch from like, oh, this is surreal. And there's Nick Nurse, the championship head coach of the Toronto Raptors, to like, oh, there's a dude and he's a pal of Max's. And then you just switch into another mode where it's like the other shit falls away. And now you're just having a conversation with a guy that has a cool job.
Mm-hmm.
And it shifted to that. And there you go.
There you go.
And people are probably wondering why I'm not complaining about not being invited.
Well, I was going to ask, but I also didn't want to bring it up. But are you, what
Well,
happened?
what happened was Max, gave me a call. And I was like, this is weird. I don't
Oh,
get a
that's
call
good.
from Max. And usually when Max calls me, it's never to give me anything. It's always to not give me something and and to explain why he's not giving it to me. Like, yeah, you've never called me to say like,
Yeah, well, if I was giving you something, I would just text you.
I know. So I always like, what am I missing out on now?
That happened today?
Oh, it happened today, yeah. But luckily, oddly, this is one thing I don't really give that much of shit about.
Well, this is
Yeah.
the funny thing.
Max
So-
had a good line. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so I was like, so this thing's come up. I'm going to invite Mike. I would obviously, you'd be next in line, but I can't have an entourage showing up to this fucking practice. That's not going to happen. But any luck, he'll be our friend and he'll be hanging out with us every day of the week. And then you're like, wait a second, are you guys playing with them? And then I was like, no, we're just going to watch. She's like, oh, I'd be really pissed off if you guys were playing with them. Is if you guys are just watching. I don't care. It's fine.
Why? Because if he invited Mike over you, would that mean that Max thought Mike was a better basketball player?
No, it's not. It's nothing about that. It's just that Mike is a bigger fan, and he's put in all the work to be a fan. Even if they were playing, I would be jealous because potentially I'm a bigger fan of playing the game than Mike.
You actually want to play in a scrimmage, which would be
just
much
because
more
it would
fun.
be very fun. But that being said, still, you've put in all the years of just claiming, hey, I'm into the Raptors, even though it's not cool to be into the Raptors.
Yeah.
So
A lot of those
you
years.
deserve everything that's coming.
whatever.
But
It is what it is.
today, I'm like, if I was to go and I had to stand with Nick, Mike and I actually were just talking about this, how awkward it is when you don't have anything to say to someone. And I don't know like the stats and the players' names and everything like the way Mike does. So I'm just not interested in it in the way Mike is.
So it worked out.
Yeah, I actually would not want to be invited. I would actually turn it down if you offered me.
Be like, I don't want to put myself through that stress.
Exactly,
Yeah.
100%.
Like, oh, this is a nightmare.
All right, let's get into some of these topics. That's why the people come
Yep.
these days. They want to come and listen to us talk about some of these topics. So Max has picked a couple. The first one we're going to start with is speeches, because there's been actually a few speeches in the news, I guess, in the last 48 hours. The Emmys happened on Sunday night. Michelle Williams gave a very memorable and moving speech about pay equality and sort of like appreciating the fact that the producers of the show that she won her Best Actress Emmy for didn't hesitate to give her equal pay, because she said that if you allow people to do their work and pay them properly, they will sort of repay you by doing the best job that they can. And so she sort of thanked them and also said, so listen to a woman when she says her price, especially a woman of color, because they make something like 52 cents on the dollar compared to their white male counterparts. It was a very sort of I am not quoting, so if I misstated anything,
Basically, it was good.
that was sort of the message of her speech, and it was very inspiring. There was a few speeches that night that I thought were pretty good, and then more recently, back on the climate change tip,
Swedish girl, as you
shout out to,
mentioned.
Oh, right.
to Lucy. A teenager spoke at this conference, Greta Thunberg, about basically how the world powers need to start recognizing that climate change is a real thing, and that it's obviously the children's future, not these sort of like older people that are in power who aren't going to be around here for the theoretical downfall of the earth and our climate. But her speech was it went incredibly viral, as Shane says. I'm not sure if it made the front page of the Hamilton Spectator, but it has been seen by, I can't remember what the number was, millions of
shot
people.
at my daughter's family.
No, not at all. But yeah, it was a pretty moving speech. Since then, the president has trolled her on Twitter. Donald Trump.
What did he say?
Oh,
She said something like, she seems like a very happy young girl.
Excited for her future.
who has a
Excited
bright
for the
future ahead of her, or something like that.
And he's a troll because she's a very serious young girl.
It was a very impassioned
right.
speech.
And she...
Well, she has autism too, right?
Yeah, and she talks about that too. So, it's like, nothing surprises me with Donald Trump, to the point where, not to get too sidetracked here, but I actually feel bad for Trump, because he's like, he's not able to feel empathy or do the right thing or act with compassion, and to not have that, I actually feel pity for a person who doesn't have that in them.
Yeah, he's
It's
missing
you know what I
something.
mean?
You'd
It's like-
almost say it was like it could be like early onset of dementia,
Uh-huh.
but he's
always
that
been like
for
this.
so long.
Yeah.
But see, I always find it weird to feel bad for people in that situation, because if you're a sociopath and you actually, like, you don't know what you're missing if you don't have it. So people like that just kind of always win, because it's like, if they don't care, like, does he lose sleep over something he said? I would guess not.
Here's the thing. I think the greatest joy and deepest sense of sort of gratification in life is the sense of human connection and feeling love for somebody else.
So you're mourning that he doesn't have the full rich experience of
yeah,
the human
I
experience?
actually feel bad for him that he does not get that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
actually-
maybe he wants it, but he's not as good at being that way as he is at being this horrible.
Well, this is
way.
my point. I
Yeah.
think in his heart of hearts, I wonder, and maybe he's just like a sociopath, and in which case he has a mental illness. But maybe there's a part of him that he's never been able to acknowledge that goes, I just wish I could be vulnerable for one second.
Well, and he's made his bed in such a certain way
Yeah.
that if he changes that way, everyone hates him all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So at least he gets some love, albeit from maybe a place he doesn't want it from
Yeah.
maybe now.
Of
This
course.
is like all like presumptive, but
Yeah, no, but that's an interesting
Yeah.
point for sure.
Yeah, but anyway, I like it. Nothing surprises me with Trump, and I actually weirdly feel bad for him because he's not able
No,
to have
I'm
like
the
a sense
same.
of
Yeah.
like human, like because it's so offensive that it has actually become high comedy to me. You know what I mean? You know when something is like so fucking brutal that you just like that's actually making me laugh. Like,
Yeah.
you know, because I can't.
Well, it's weird to
cry
be
about it.
sarcastic towards a little kid.
This is it. You're the president of the fucking free world, and you're making fun of a 17-year-old with Asperger's who actually is saying the most meaningful shit.
She's
out
like
there.
an activist. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like
Yeah.
more accomplished.
She's
than,
got
like,
1.7
Rally Oliver
million.
Bee, Yeah.
Oh, she's incredible. And
Well, it's laughing at sincerity. It's laughing at someone who's passionate about something. It's just so weak. And it honestly, it's like people always talk about like whatever happened to decorum. You know, people used to wear suits to fly on airplanes, and it's like an example like that always makes me roll my eyes because I'm like, what's decorum? We're going to evolve. But in some ways, when I look at the way that Trump acts, I'm like, maybe we do need a certain set of like rules in which we should operate in polite society. Otherwise, we're all just fucking gutter rats, sort of trying to get the funniest laugh or like dog eat dog. It's like, what are we doing? We're all just crabs in a bucket if we don't have some civility or like compassion or empathy. And it's sort of he's the embodiment of like, get what you can get for yourself and fuck everybody else.
Yeah.
And deny till you die, and I'm never wrong. I can't. I will laugh sometimes at the way he says shit because it's so incredibly absurd. But he just depresses me, and I don't mourn whatever he might be losing out of the human experience because I think he makes so many other people's human experience terrible.
yeah, that I also would agree with that. I just say that when you get into this thing where it makes you depressed,
Yeah.
it actually distracts you from what you need to do to actually make shit happen. Like it actually distracts you from making progress occur.
Sure.
So when people just get so wrapped up in like, can you fucking believe he's trolling a 17-year-old? Like he's done this literally 1,000 times over. You just have to kind of go, I know, I actually feel bad. Let's focus on some good shit and put our energy into there, and then things can change. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like horrible people come from horrible places and horrible experiences. So I feel bad for them.
There is a
Yeah.
systemic thing too,
Yeah.
where you just go, yeah. Sometimes when I see people who are like really troubled in the street, and you can clearly have mental health issues or addicted to drugs and stuff, I'm just like, oh man, I just like, I feel so bad, like
Right.
that you've come from a place that clearly you've turned out this way. It's just heartbreaking to me.
Well, and it's like people tend to this day understand it when it's like, let's say it's about black crime. A lot of people will say, well, this is systemic and it's because of this. But because Trump comes from such a privileged place, it's hard to imagine him coming
sure.
from another form of a horrible upbringing or emotional damage that kind of made him that way.
Well, actually, on the other end of the spectrum, to that point, it's like when people come from like another reality of wealth or privilege, and you're actually missing out on the human experience too because you're so disconnected from the rest of us.
Sure.
And I feel bad for that too. But anyway, back to speeches.
The topic at hand was
Sorry.
speeches,
Yeah.
and more specifically, what makes a good speech? What's your favorite? Who is your favorite speech maker? And who don't you like that is maybe considered a good orator or a speech maker? It's a good question. I mean, I thought another great speech at the Emmys was Alex Bornstein from. She was on Mad TV. She was on Family Guy as the mom, and she won for Best Supporting Actress on Miss Maisel. And she gave. Did you see her speech?
Nope.
I ended up watching a bit of the Emmys because Danica wanted to tune in. She's a Mandy Moore fan, so she wanted to see if Mandy Moore would win in her category. And I was like, yeah, let's throw it on a Sunday night. And she gave a great speech about how her basically how she comes from a family of survivors because during the Holocaust her grandmother was in line waiting to get shot and thrown in a ditch, and her grandmother stepped out of that line and she said to the guard, what are you going to do if I step out of here? And he basically said, I'm not going to shoot you, but someone else will. And then she kept it moving, and she lived, and then her and her mother obviously survived, and she said, "I'm so grateful because I'm here today, and my kids are here today because my grandmother stepped out of line." So, ladies, always step out of line.
Ah, very good.
It was like, and like honestly, like when that happened in real time, Dan and I were watching, and again, I'm paraphrasing and I'm not doing it well, so please go watch her actual speech. But it was just a really powerful speech and just a great sort of turn of phrase and like this sort of great lesson, but also this sort of like wrapped in a story, and it was emotional as fucking. It was very emotional. Like Danica was tearing up. I was like, I felt this weird like. It just felt like a moment, and that was well before the Michelle Williams speech. But I thought that was a great speech of that night. But I guess more general is what you're asking.
Well, one of my questions related to award shows is how much do you think they rehearse their speech? Because they're actors. Their job is literally
Great
to
question.
memorize lines at length.
Right.
And so because I thought Michelle Williams was so eloquent, I didn't hear that speech. I'm like, oh, that's fucking perfect. But they are literally in the business of performance and memorizing lines. So I guess my question is like, I see like Robert Downey Jr. He always he has this weird frenetic energy, and he's like very like kind of off the cuff. I'm like, has he been rehearsing all of this? Because that is sort of his sweet spot. Or Michelle Williams. Like, what would you guys guess?
Well, it depends how gifted you are at speech. Like a guy like. Well, I forget his name. Robert Downey Jr. He probably doesn't think much. Like he probably has a few talking points.
You think he's just a great orator?
Exactly.
Orator, yeah.
And then a guy like Robert De Niro, he's just not really great off the cuff. He's not a great interview subject, but he's a wonderful actor.
Yeah.
So if he really wants to do an impactful speech, like when he spoke for, he was honored. Leonardo DiCaprio honored him with some Lifetime Achievement Award, and he really had to come up with a good speech. Whereas someone like you're just gifted in that way. Same with Mike. You could just kind of go up and do something off the cuff and probably have it be at least an 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 without much planning, right? Whereas me, I could, if I did that, it would be a 4 out of 10. Or I'd put in all my planning and rehearse it like an actor would a big role, and then maybe come out with an 8 or a 9.
Yeah.
You'd have. I've seen you hit 10s when you plan. Like,
It's a chance that it could happen, but it's just because I'm so bad, you almost have to be so good. And this is
Over-prepared.
we kind of touched on this when we were talking about having anxiety and it being a gift or a curse. But yeah, I would say actors, the spectrum's all the same.
Well, here's the other question. Actors, as we know, great actors, many of them they're not writers.
Yeah.
They're great at saying other people's lines. Do you think actors ever hire people to write speeches for them?
Great question. It's funny when you listen to a lot of podcasts, you get a real sense of like, oh, this actor you can tell he's got a high IQ. He's just so smart, well read. Like Stephen Colbert is an example. Like that guy seems like a brilliant guy. Different kind of example, but I think is also really smart is Timothy Oliphant. Like I just think he's like a great talker. And then there's other people who like don't talk as much, and you go, oh, are they like Leo? You kind of wonder about Leo. Leo doesn't give any interviews, and you wonder like, if he's just having a conversation, is he going to impress you? And I don't know. So yeah, to answer your question, I bet you it varies from case to case.
Like, do you think, like, so here's the thing. You have a 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 shot of winning the award. So it's like there's also 4 or 5 other speeches we never got to hear that could have changed history or made headlines or whatever. Like, do we think, like, a Michelle Williams would have sat down, like, in her study and wrote that speech out in case she won? Do you think she had an idea? Do you think she had, like, places she wanted to get? Because it was said so well.
I think so.
You think she wrote it out?
I think the process,
Unless she's like Stephen Colbert level talker.
but I think the process is kind of irrelevant. It's all, does it come from the heart? Whether you plan it or whether.
Great point.
Oh, of course.
No, he's
Oh,
answering my question about hiring a writer.
Sorry,
It
I
doesn't
just thought we were
matter.
talking about what makes for a great speech.
Yeah. By the way, this isn't a criticism. Like I love.
Oh, and I'm not
preparation.
saying not saying it is.
Uh-huh.
But you can have a speech that's worded perfectly and just comes off so disingenuous.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And something you could be a great speaker that is great off the cuff, and it still comes across like you're a bit phony. But like Cuba Gooding Jr.'s speech when he won for Jerry Maguire, oh my God, like that's like he's not even saying proper words or sentences. He's just yelling names at the end, and he's like, you, don't cut me off, and like the music's coming in, and it's just like one of the best speeches of all time. Yet it's probably one of the worst worded speeches
on paper. If you were to read that speech, it'd be a disaster.
Like you couldn't plan for that.
You know what's funny about award shows, I was thinking about this today, is that oftentimes people just sort of make fun of actors for self-aggrandizing and just talking about how important film is. Like, because the whole thing is like talking about how important film is.
Yeah, it's a night for them all to pat themselves on the back.
Yeah,
to celebrate themselves and their art.
And people really give actors a hard time for it. I don't think actors as professionals think of themselves as any more important than a lot of other professions. I've been to retirement parties for like accountants and lawyers and this and that, teachers, whatever.
All the same.
I think everybody thinks what they're doing is and can change the world. You know, like think. No, hold on, let me finish.
Yeah.
I think but the only difference is that the difference between like the Emmys versus like the award show for accountants or lawyers or plumbers or whatever
The
is
Pro-Max
that number
award
one
Promo producers.
Yeah.
or promo producers. Number one, the Emmys are on TV.
Yep.
And number two, actors are just annoying. Actors, like theater kids, are just obnoxious, and their whole job is to feel and to emote and to deliver lines.
true.
So when people are like fuck actors, fuck them, they think they're so self-important. I go, no. They don't think they're any more important than any of the rest of us. They just happen to be more annoying about it. Right. And I think there's something to that.
Yeah. I think people find them annoying too because, well, I was going to say because of how much money they make.
Sure.
That always clouds things for people, but to your point, lawyers and doctors make a fortune. I mean, doctors are literally saving lives, so they should give themselves a pat.
Yeah,
on the back.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had to go through the standings of like what's actually important, I don't know. We could do that, but
Yeah.
But
But
if we're talking about who's annoying on the scale, like the original question, I would say Anne Hathaway definitely stands out as someone who's
People dislike her, yeah. I thought Tom Hiddleston when he did a speech after he won for like the Night Manager, and it felt like a self-aggrandizing. I can't remember it, so I probably shouldn't speak to it like very well. But I just remember everyone being like, "What the fuck is he talking
all
about?"
I'm saying is there's some plumbers out there that if they could get to Tom Hiddleston level of like talking about themselves, they'd do it.
They'd be just as
They would just
unbearable.
be as unbearable. Like honestly, you go through every
That's a great
profession
point.
if they're like,
Yeah.
oh man, like because people feel that way about themselves, but the only people who can get to that level of like emotion are those people.
That's hilarious.
But when it comes to speech makers, who's your it's so jarring when you hear Obama speak now versus what we put up with Trump every day.
yeah.
And it's like a warm blankie to me. I don't know, like hearing
Warm
Obama.
blanky.
It's true. When I hear Obama speak, because he doesn't talk that much.
You said
anymore.
it's what calms you on flights when you're scared.
Truly, it does. I just think he is, I think, the best speech maker of our time.
A lot of people find him, or people have said that he's a little too professorial,
Sure.
and that they don't find him as engaging because it can start to get weighted down in sort of like a professor at the
Sure,
front of a
fair
lecture.
enough.
And you know what I mean? I don't feel that
He
way.
connects
I
with
agree.
me.
I
Yeah,
agree
I
with you that
agree
I
as
think
well.
he's the
He's
same.
incredible.
I think he's an amazing speaker. I love listening to him.
Anybody else come to mind that you like or dislike?
Justin Trudeau sucks.
Okay, this is what I wanted to get to.
Okay, a
Is
lot
that-
of politicians in Canada, they just scream into the microphone. I've seen Andrea Horwath speak as well. She does the same thing. It's just so disengaging.
You know what's weird about Trudeau is that Trudeau if you were to read the text of his speech, I think I'd probably like agree with the messaging. I think it's like very thoughtful messaging most of the time. But he has a very robotic voice. Like the rhythms of the way he says it, I just do not feel the emotion. That I like.
Yeah.
There's a spectrum, I think, of his speeches, but the ones where he's like yelling and it's like raspy, it's like so bad.
Speaking of actors and performances and politicians, isn't it a little bit wild that basically someone's electability comes down to their performative sort of skill level? Like meaning like I can get up and I can be inspiring. Like that's a weird skill set that might not have anything to do with setting policy that actually is better for the population. What a
Yeah.
wild fucking thing that we've
It's
introduced.
a figurehead position. It's literally like the mascot.
It's
of
the
party.
monorail from fucking Simpsons. It's just like, are you the most engaging? Are you the most charismatic? Let's elect that guy or that gal.
Which
And then
makes
it's
an
like,
argument for hiring an actor to be the leader of the party, which is essentially
happened with
Donald
Reagan,
Trump.
it's happened with Trump.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger too.
Yeah,
Because-
governor of California.
Actually, you know what? I ended
Didn't
up
Trudeau do some acting?
He was a drama teacher.
Drama teacher. Like, what is
And he's
up?
good looking. And
Well, that's what you want to find. The whole goal of this is to find the most charismatic person who shares the same beliefs as you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
every party's represented with your beliefs with the most charismatic person at the head of it, right?
yeah. I met a guy who works for the Liberal Party. He works in Trudeau's office, and he said that people think of Trudeau as sort of like a dummy drama teacher, basically. That he's just like a pretty boy who's not that smart. But he's like, that's actually kind of a secret weapon for us because he's actually pretty smart. And one thing he's really good at.
What a ringing endorsement!
Yeah, that's nice of
He's
him to say.
actually pretty smart.
No. He's smarter than you think.
Oh, another ringing endorsement.
Smarter than you think on a billboard, wearing glasses.
No, what I was gonna say was that he's good. He's great at retaining information. So, like
Right.
to your point about memorizing lines,
Yeah.
is that he can go into any town hall, any speech in any community, get the notes 15 minutes before it goes on. Like, this is not what you need to talk about.
So he doesn't even know what he's saying. He's just saying it.
On a certain level. But honestly,
But he knows more than you think he would.
No, but honestly, to Mike's
Yeah.
point, it's literally one of the qualities. It's like you don't want to be a viral idiot. Like you need to be, you need to know your talking points, and you're literally, your job is to give speeches. It's like, even when you talk back to coaching, it's like there's the coaches on the team. It's like, are they the most skilled at offensive or defensive? Like, no, they hire people to be really good at that, and they have to kind of be the figureheads and take the heat when it's good and
Sure.
celebrate when they lose. I don't know.
Different skill sets, different responsibilities. I get that. You were also saying like anyone that you think that is considered a good speaker that you don't. I mean, I don't have any.
I say Trudeau is that. Feel like I thought people liked Trudeau as a speaker, and something about him always kind of doesn't resonate with me.
I'm agnostic on like my opinions on his speaking, but yeah, I don't listen to him and be like, wow, that's I'm just like, it is what it is. And that's literally not even the content of what he's saying. It's almost the way he's saying.
To me, he just never seems like, and Obama, I would say this too. He never seems like he's just coming up with something off the cuff.
You value that in like a speaker. You want that sort of like.
Well, it
from the heart.
It makes it seem genuine.
Yeah.
I agree.
Who do you think is a good speaker?
Well,
Anyone come to mind?
Nobody like I liked what was that guy who died? Jack Layton or something?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I liked him. He had a
NDP
real like he's my dad
provincial.
vibe,
Sure.
which I
Totally.
like. And same with who's that astronaut that we had?
Chris Hadfield.
Yeah,
Chris Hadfield has that good. He's my dad.
They
I
both have
trust what he's
mustaches.
saying.
Does that have anything to do with it?
I don't know. Maybe
Shane has a mustache.
Okay. Politics.
I don't have
aside,
that vibe though.
Who's your favorite talker? This is a good one. Like, because we listen to a lot of podcasts. Who's the person who just like can string together sentences?
Oh, I love Owen Wilson. Like he's one of my
I
favorite talkers. Very calming voice, very funny. His insights, I find I agree
the
with.
word choices are interesting.
Yeah,
like that kind of shit.
Like his
always-
vocal tics aren't annoying, which most people's are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson. Mike, who's your favorite talker?
I don't know. I listen to like I do listen to a lot, and I some people really sort of. I don't think any one stands out. Like, I mean, it's funny you mentioned. There's certain people that I've listened to on podcasts, like Simmons will have like Malcolm Gladwell. I love Chuck Klosterman. Yeah. That's what I'll say. I really like listening to Chuck Klosterman speak about sort of pop culture or societal things because I think he really thinks about different angles and sort of a way where when I listen to him describe things, I go, oh, that's fascinating. And I just like the way he speaks. I like the words he chooses. I like the like the directions he goes in. Sometimes when I listen to him on Simmons, I feel like sometimes he'll say something like, oh, I get where you're going. And then Simmons will say something back and I'm like, Simmons does not know where he's going right now.
Yeah, sure.
Because maybe Simmons isn't actively listening. Maybe he's just waiting to get to the next question or something. But anyway, so I go with Klosterman. You?
Cool. John Dickerson and David Plotz, who host the Slate Political Gabfest, which I love. Those two have a way of explaining things and word choice and stringing together sentences in a way that I just find to be very impressive.
What do you think of Malcolm Gladwell's voice?
I love it.
See, I don't know. Sometimes I would just want to kill him, and sometimes I like it. It's like so mood dependent.
It is very unique. It's an idiosyncratic voice, but I do like it. I side with Max. Did you listen to his latest Simmons pod?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
fascinating.
loved it.
Who do you like listening to, Erica?
I love Conan.
I love Conan.
He's just great. He's just captivating.
Yeah.
Like he could say anything, and I would listen to it. But when you were talking about Michelle Williams' speech, it made me think of a few years back. The woman who won, and it wasn't at the Emmys. I think it was the Oscars. And Frances
McDermott.
You know who?
She was just like such a boss ass bitch when she went on that stage. She was like, inclusion rider, and everybody was like, holy fuck. And I think it was like right
term?
at and it was like right at the end,
right
and like I was watching it live, and like it was just so everybody. I was just like, holy shit.
You know what was good about that speech too? I think this gets back to Shane's thing about authenticity. It didn't have the polish of Michelle Williams' speech. It just felt very visceral.
Totally,
it was a bit
polish.
Clunky. It was a bit like out of nowhere. It was like
completely.
You know what I mean?
Well, Didn't
and
thank
that's
anybody.
so commanding too.
Yeah.
Like and scary a little bit.
It was a little scary. She like got on stage. She's like, thank you. I got some shit to say, and everybody was like, holy.
In that
This
vein,
is
but
freaky.
different, Olivia Colman last year at the.
I haven't seen the speech.
Oh my God, she was amazing.
She won for the favorite.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was so overwhelmed, but so charming, so funny. I don't know if she had any political moment, but it was very good.
Well, and it's also when somebody they win an award. Most of the time, when you see a speech, I find someone's won an award. If they actually seem happy and that it's not so pre-rehearsed, like sometimes at a wedding, I'll see someone and they'll be like, "That last speech by my sister was so beautiful," and it's like you wrote that before you even heard the speech, and that speech sucked.
Yeah, but Shane, you didn't have to say that out loud after 3 drinks.
No, but our friend AJ ran into a situation where he was like, "That last speech was incredible," and he's
Yeah.
like, "Actually, I wrote this before I heard the speech, and that wasn't really a speech. They just played a weird game."
So huge laugh, huge laugh.
But that's what I mean. It
Yeah.
was genuine
Yeah.
because he acknowledged
Yeah.
the mistake that
Agreed.
he made. Yeah.
One thing I cannot handle in my soul, if you talk to Danica, like I don't really watch like award shows anymore because bad comedic bits I cannot watch. It is like when it's like
'Cause
what
you're a writer of those things.
well, it's not. It's just like if you're not performing it right. Like say the conceit's bad from the start, and then they're out there and there's flop sweat. I was saying, what's that guy's name? Ken Jeong from. He did a thing on the Emmys where it was like he was doing a TikTok. He's like the kids are doing TikTok, and so my daughter's doing TikTok, and it was just like he was out there like tap dancing for laughs, and I was just dying along with him. So I'm like, when bits don't work. It's the worst. When they work, I fucking love it. And there was a few that worked at the Emmys. But I just like, it feels so labored sometimes when I'm watching. And I just feel embarrassed for the performer. I feel embarrassed weirdly for the people in the room that have to either fake laugh or sit there awkwardly. So that's one thing. But then when it comes to the speeches, I actually will leave the room. You can ask my wife, Danica. If somebody's going too long or you realize it's like, you know they're only going to give you 30 seconds. So you need to like get it tight or at least figure out the people that matter the most. There's probably like 15 important people. You could easily say 15 names in 30 seconds. You would say 15 names in 10 seconds and then do 20 seconds to do something emotional like your mother, your father, or whatever, the first person that got into the business. And then they start playing people off. I just cannot watch people get played off in their moment of triumph, whether they've won an Emmy, a Grammy, or an Oscar. It's like, oh, this guy's just like an editor on a film. He's some dude that sits in an edit bay like us, and this is his moment, and he's not a great speaker, or she's not a great speaker, and they're going too long, and now they're trying to play them off because they want to let fucking, whomever, Sam Rockwell, speak for 3 minutes, so that means that this person only gets 30. I can't stand the construct of it. I have to leave the room.
One of the funniest pieces of journalism that I've ever read was from The Guardian after last year's Oscars, I believe, where they basically did a recap of one acceptance speech, which was like for some obscure category in the Grammys, where it was like 3 people that came up on stage together and gave the most awkward speech in the history of speeches, and they basically did like an annotated version of like what happened in each moment, and it's so fucking funny. We'll post it. It's
Okay.
really good, really, really good.
Okay, so we're going to keep it moving because here's a topic we had. We're going to save it till the next episode, which was Lenny Kravitz lost his sunglasses.
Oh, I like that.
And made an email account to have them returned. So that will be a topic we talk about another time. The reason we're bouncing it is because our boy Shane Cunningham, our pop culture aficionado, played in an NBA Jam tournament, and he did this on the weekend. We have been around each other now for like 48 hours. We were texting at the start of the tournament. I have no idea how this turned out. We told him to save everything until the podcast. I want to know, how did you get into this? How did it go? Are you a champion? What is going on with this?
Well, I'll let you know at the end. Do you know what the game NBA Jam is, Erica?
No.
Do you know what Sega Genesis is?
Yeah, it's a console, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a 16-bit console, and in 1993 they came out with a game called NBA Jam, which is 2-on-2 basketball. It's NBA teams, all 27 NBA teams in 1993. There's only 27 NBA teams. The next year, in 1994, they came out with NBA Jam Tournament Edition. So they add an extra player to your roster, still 2-on-2 basketball, but then you can do a substitution.
Got it.
And they added injuries to this game. So players can actually get fatigued and injured in this game, which slows them down. So it's way more strategic. And back in 1994, when this game came out, how old was I? I was 11. I became the best NBA Jam player, honestly, in the world. Like I did, like
At the age of 11.
I was
As voted on by your mother and
unbeaten.
sister.
No one had ever beat me. I tried to get all the best players I knew, and everyone was playing Sega back then. I'd have kids come to my house, kids I didn't even know come to my house. We would start playing after school. We would stop playing at like 3 a.m.
Kids you didn't even know.
Kids who just told me they were really good. And every kid thinks they're good, right? But I actually lived up to the hype. And then I would try to train my friends how to be good. And honestly, it was embarrassing. I was beating the computer by 150 points. I was beating my friends by 80 points. The friend who got the best, which was maybe Cam Ballantyne, who's been on this podcast. He's a DJ.
DJ Cam.
Calm down, Max. But I could beat him every time by at least 35 points. So anyway, I put the game behind me. Like I just realized, okay, it's actually boring now for me to play. And then about 2 years ago, I decided to buy another Sega and get back into NBA Jam a little bit. So for about a week, I was obsessed with it, just playing my wife, just killing her by 80 points. It's not a big deal. She sucks at the game forever. But my friend Sean Menard, he messages me, and he says, there's an NHL 94 tournament coming out. But it's also a hybrid tournament where they have an NBA Jam section. You have to sign up for this. I'm like, don't have to ask me twice. Boom. Sign right up for it. And then I was expecting some major competition. But I was also expecting to kick everybody's ass by at least 20. But I'm unsure. But I'm training. I'm looking up YouTube tutorials on like I'm looking up best NBA Jam player in the world. I'm watching guys play on extra hard against the CPU. And they're still only beating...
That's the computer.
The computer. They're only beating the computer by 40 to 60 points. I beat the computer by 80 points.
On extra
time.
hard.
On extra hard. You can't get me to this tournament fast enough. I just want the damn trophy. So, and Menard's very good at NHL 94, but he still considers himself like a really good amateur player. So he enters himself... It's called the Duke of 94. So it's for players who aren't like super obsessed, like playing online every night, because you can play NHL 94 online. But I enter King of Jam. And King of Jam is for players who consider themselves the best in the world.
Well, you were an 11-year-old protege. Why wouldn't?
Exactly.
Like
So
Bobby Fischer kind of shit, yeah.
yeah. So anyway, Menard's tournament goes from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. My tournament goes from 4 p.m. till 10:30 at night. I show up to watch Menard. And then it's just the playoffs are just starting when I get there around 3.
For context for our listeners, Sean Menard, who you grew up with, and my brother, best friends, he directed The Carter Effect, produced by Drake
Hit
and LeBron.
documentary about Vince Carter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was at TIFF.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
check it out. It's amazing.
NHL 94 player. Go on. So you go to watch him.
And then so Menard's just when I walk, his fiance is actually there too to support him. And so I walk up. She waves me down. He's in an intense game. It's in overtime. If he loses, he's out. And then it's just a goal scored. I don't know if it was Sean or if it was his opponent, but Sean just like goes, "Good game." Shakes the guy's hand. I'm like, "Oh fuck, Sean! I just got here and you lose." Sean goes, "Oh, I won, baby." I'm like, "Oh my god!" And Sean, I noticed there's a camera crew kind of following Sean around because someone's doing a doc on NHL 94. And there's other camera crews that are documenting the whole game because this thing's being live streamed. And it's on like a huge screen, the NHL 94. It's like the main event. And there's announcers commentating on the game. So you actually have two guys saying, Menard passes to this guy. Oh, Menard's really playing well and everything. And Menard is such a ham that he's become the big star. So everyone is all about Menard. Now he's in the championship, 5-game series for the championship. And Menard... He loses the first 2, and then he comes back at the end, and then still ends up losing the game in the third. So Menard's like, "Oh fuck, came close," but he does a post-game interview because even though the guy who beat
He's
him,
drenched in sweat.
the guy beat him on the championship, everyone wanted to get Menard an interview with Menard, and Menard's like hamming it up. He's like, I didn't do what I wanted to do this tournament, but next year I'm going to come back. I'm going to be better than ever. And guess what? I'm here to make the announcement. Everybody ready? I'm going to the pros next year. And everyone's like, yeah. And people are just loving Menard. Anyway, now it's my turn to shine. And I've been bragging to Menard this whole time. I'm like, "Oh, you think you're good at NHL 94? I am a god at NBA Jam. Just wait until you see me." Menard's like, "I can't wait."
Did you sign up under Shane Cunningham?
No, that'd be a good name. Just Shaney Boy.
Okay.
69?
But no, I thought that might
He's
be
a father now.
inappropriate.
Come on.
Any money on the line?
There is.
Okay.
I'll get to that later. But so I have about an hour till it's time for me to play.
Till tip off.
Yeah, till tip off. But I see guys kind of playing practice games, and I'm like, that's kind of a stupid move because they'll kind of understand your game. But I'm like, I can't fucking wait. I just got to play somebody who's into this game as much as me. So I see this really buff dude. He's kind of breaking the mold of what you would consider a retro gamer, which would probably be like balding, kind of overweight, nerdier guy.
Like you.
Right. Erica. We're not that close yet. Do you think I'm overweight, Erica?
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Balding I can handle, but anyway, this guy he's really ripped, and I go, hey, do you want to play a game? Can we do this? Is that cheating? How do you feel about it? He goes, I'll play you. And I get talking to him. He's flew from Vancouver for this competition, and he knows what he's doing. I can tell. But we start the game. I pick San Antonio Spurs, which is my team. He picks, I believe, the Supersonics. We we start playing, and I score the first 6 points, and then I catch fire. And when you catch fire, you can do unlimited goaltending, which is it's almost like God mode in the game. And then I end up beating him by 20 points. He starts figuring me out in about the third quarter, but I beat him handily. And he's like, dude, you have nothing to worry about in this tournament. And I'm like, okay. I'm really confident. I'm like,
Buff Pro.
a pizza just came in the room.
Oh my goodness. They heard the champ was here. Thank you, Ash.
Carry on.
So I'm like, I am actually as good as I think. Can I have a slice of that?
Yeah, please.
I'm like, I am actually as good as I think I am. Anyway, then I see the vocally caged guy. He's coming over to the NBA Jam area to kind of talk to me.
The guy who just won.
I go, oh no. I go, you're not playing in this tournament. And this guy looks like your typical gamer. He's like, unshowered look, a little bit overweight. He's wearing pajama pants and like a very extra large shirt. And he's
You
like,
just described my retirement, by the way, bro. Sounds like heaven to me.
but he's like, I am playing. And he's like, you want to know what? I'm better at this game than I am NHL 94. He goes, I consider NBA Jam my game.
Oh, shit.
And I'm just like, oh, fuck no. There's no way I can beat this guy if he's as good as he says he is. Because everyone was, by the way, complaining about this guy, how good he was and how he shouldn't have been in that amateur league. Some people speculated he could have won the pros, the NHL 94.
Ringer.
Exactly. So anyway, I'm like, okay, whatever. Tournament actually starts, and I play the buff dude who I played before. His screen name's Satinder. So I start playing Satinder, and I get Sean and Montaigne to sit in the little seats behind me. Let's call it the bleachers.
Yeah.
And instantly, he picks the teams. How it works is the second player picks the player for the first player team. You flip a coin, you decide who does this, and then you get to decide out of those two teams which team you want to pick. So he picks the LA Clippers and LA Lakers. Now, those are two of the worst teams in NBA Jam. So I'm like, fuck, I thought he was going to pick two really good teams. I'm not super accustomed to
He wanted a rock fight.
Right. And he is excellent at playing with shitty teams. So
Great strategy.
I'm an idiot. I picked the Lakers. I should have picked the Clippers because the Lakers are the absolute worst team.
Was it the Nick Van Exel Lakers?
Yeah, and
Yep.
Vlade.
Oh, there you go.
Anyway, Vladdy's way too slow.
Yep.
He starts fucking killing me right off the bat. And Montaigne and Sean are behind me. And when I start doing bad, I start doing worse because I start getting really nervous and kind of ashamed and embarrassed. He ends up beating me by 16 points.
What?
And I'm like, oh, fuck. Was this guy just messing with me like white men can't jumping me in the exhibition?
Rope-a-dope. He's, what's that?
Yeah.
Pool shark.
Shark.
Yeah. So anyway, next up is vocally caged.
Side note, I was texting with my good friend Shane Cunningham. I wanted to come up and support him. This was all happening up in North York. I was like, I'm going to come see. And he just wrote back. I was on a text with him and Menard. And he just said, don't come till the chip. He didn't want me to come for the fucking tournament.
Because it looks really good when you're in the championship because you get to play on this huge screen.
Right.
It's like massive and the announcers are actually
I'm just saying,
talking
I want
about
to
you.
come support you.
I know, but when you would have come, you would have seen me play on this little ridiculous TV with no fanfare. I only wanted you to come when it mattered. But then I started losing a lot of confidence after the first game. Anyway,
Tinder.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan, come listen to the end of the story. Come on.
Wait, no, who is this? I don't want this.
Dan Rosenthal.
You know Dan.
Oh, gee.
We used
Okay,
to
get
hoop
in here,
together.
Dan. I thought it was Dan Hamilton.
There's a seat back here if you want to have a seat, Dan.
Yeah, Shane is
Good
in
to
the
see you,
middle
Dan.
of a He played NBA Jam, and he was in a tournament this weekend.
I know, I've been hearing the story from us.
Okay.
Do you know NBA Jam?
Yeah.
Did you play it?
Yeah.
Were you good?
I'm not going to say that when I've heard all the things that you've been saying. I don't
Okay,
know
good.
if that's
Okay. Anyway, I'll get to you later. So Vocally Caged comes up, and as we know, Vocally Caged won the '94 thing against Menard, and he's been telling me how good he is. Start playing Vocally Caged, I just murder him.
Oh.
So I'm like, geez, okay, I know I can beat Satinder because I beat him in an exhibition game, and I just kind of fucked up which team I picked. I should have picked the Clippers, but anyway, ended up murdering Vocally Caged. Then there's this guy, his name is Slapshot, comes up. He's next.
Playing basketball, but go
Yeah,
on.
playing basketball. He was also in the NHL tournament.
A lot of dual threats.
A lot of guys were good at every system, every game.
Hey, Brian, if you want to listen to this podcast.
Oh,
come on
jeez.
in.
What's...
For our listeners, we're all going to the Blue Jays game after this. So as we're wrapping this pod, just people keep walking by, and Max keeps inviting them in, which is putting Shane under a lot of pressure,
Yeah,
much
this
like
isn't
this
a good
tournament.
story. I
This
didn't
is a
want...
great story.
Now we need to know. So, okay, so you meet the third guy on your journey.
Okay, third guy, Slapshot. Murder him. Fucking kill him. And this guy was a real cocky
Is it
guy,
a round
too.
robin? How do you determine who goes on? Because you lost your first game. What do
You're
work?
guaranteed 4 games, and then after that, it's double elimination.
Okay.
So I kill Slapshot, and Slapshot is very cocky. Also, he's telling me he's from Chicago. He flew in, and
Trained by Michael Jordan.
no, he's telling me he's trained by all the best video game guys in this community.
Oh, sorry. So
His
better than Michael
community.
Jordan, yeah.
At the game, probably
His community.
there is a big community.
I don't doubt it.
So I murder him, and then I'm like, oh, it's this weird thing where all the guys who are really nice and humble are good, and all the cocky guys get their ass whooped by me. So then after that game, I walk up to Satinder, who had beat me in the first game, and he's like white as a ghost at this point. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, what's wrong? He's like, I just got my ass whooped by Mort. I'm like, who's Mort? He's like, Mort is fucked. He's like, he doesn't play his best player. I'm like, what do you mean he doesn't play his best player? I'm like, he's like, wait. He doesn't play his best player till the second half. I'm like, why the fuck would he do that? He goes, and then Mort comes by and he's like, oh, I'll tell you later.
He's scared of Mort. Shh, keep it down, man.
I'll show you Mort. Mort is 6'4". He's like out of The Simpsons, where you would imagine that guy you would be terrified in a tournament like this. So I've queued up a video of Mort. Mort is actually in an ESPN documentary about his video game skills. So
I always try to keep my edge on these other guys. Try to find some new little trick, some new little game I can toy with them with. My name is Francis Bunagel, but to the technical world, I'm known as Mort.
So this guy is a legend in the gaming community. Like he's just like a savant at every game. So I'm like, okay, I'm fucked. Like, you know, I got beat by Satinder. I'm gonna get beat by Mort, and then I'm gonna get knocked out. Next game, I play Mort. He beats me. He smokes me by 40 points.
Wow.
So here's his strategy. He plays his worst players right off the top, injures the fuck out of you. He doesn't care if you get a 15-0 lead, which Satinder actually got on him. He goes, I got a 15-0 lead, and he ended up beating me by 20. Now, Mort beat me by 40, and what he does is he lets you score, and he injures your best player. He just keeps injuring. Doesn't care about the score, doesn't pay attention to anything. Second half, he substitutes his best player in and then just runs the whole game while you're going so slow, because when you have high injuries, you just move very slow. And then he has the whole game figured out. He knows exactly.
Genius strategy. Do you respect this? Or do you think it's cheap?
No, because you can do it too. And then he's so like confident in his abilities after the game, he'll tell you what to do. He's like, oh yeah, you just gotta just use your best player in the second half, and then he just goes on, and he tells me everything. He invented this like tier strategy of all the best teams. He's like, here was your fatal flaw. He's like, in the first 2 teams, you gave me the option to pick 2 teams. You picked the Supersonics and the Houston Rockets. He goes, I picked the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets are actually the best team in the league. He's like, believe it or not, they're a tier 1 team. Seattle Supersonics are a tier 3 team in the lower half. I was like, oh fuck. I always thought because of Sean Kemp being such a strong player that they were the best, one of the better teams. They're not. The Rockets fucking kill with it. So he had not only did he know all the strategy, he also knew the better team who's way better. Like
Were they the
on paper.
Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler Houston
No,
Rockets?
no. Clyde Drexler played for the Trailblazers in this. It's Robert Ory, Olajuwon, and,
Kenny Smith.
Kenny Smith.
So he gives you the strategy to beat him.
right. So then I got now I've made it far enough where I'm in the next double elimination. Just because I've lost 2 doesn't mean I'm out. It just knocks me into the lower bracket, and then I have to play Slapshot again because he's in the lower bracket because he lost. But Slapshot thinks he's out, and he's somehow, even though they don't serve alcohol, he's gotten really drunk. So he's like, I thought it was over, and I'm like, oh no, we got a game. So Slapshot sits down and he's like, I am really good. I'm better than I seem. I train actually with Mort. I'm like, you know him? He's like, I play him like every day, and I've beaten Mort sometimes.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, let's play Seattle and Houston. So stupidly, he picks Seattle.
He thinks Kemp's going to bring him home.
Exactly. I'm like, this doesn't seem like a guy who's been training with Mort too much. And because I was pretty confident I could kick his ass with any team. I pick Houston. But now he's like a super angry, desperate man. So I first play of the game, I steal the ball off the glove, which is Gary Payton.
Yeah.
And he's like, fucking glove my ass. And he's all pissed off and screaming at the top of the lungs, swearing. And then I'm up by like 15 points at the end of the first quarter. I'm up by 40 at the end of the second quarter. And he's yelling about Detlef Schrempf, how he fucking hates him. And his favorite show is Parks and Rec. And apparently Detlef's on that show.
He's on the show.
I didn't know that. And he has a shirt that says like bitch fuck on it or something. And anyway, he's going off in the craziest, angriest way. Anyway, just murder him by, I think I ended up beating him by 50 points. Then I go on to play Satinder in the semifinals. And then I lost to him. And then I was out.
Oh, you lost to Satinder.
Yeah, Satinder.
Where this all started.
Yeah, Satinder ended up beating me by, I believe, 12 points.
Did you think about employing Mort's strategy to Satinder, or did you?
I tried, but Mort had already indoctrinated Satinder and told him all the moves.
He was one of Mort's acolytes as well.
Yeah, and here's the really shocking part. Mort ended up losing in the finals, not to Satinder, because Satinder ended up losing the next game to a guy named DPS, Daniel Patrick Slattery, who is fucking amazing. This guy is the best player I've ever seen in my life.
Whoa.
And so they play in a 5-game series at the end. I watched it on a live stream on this platform called Twitch. But at the end of the tournament, Daniel gives a speech. And he says, this is the best tournament I've ever competed in terms of players. And he goes, although there was only 7 players competing, he said if there was 130, like his last tournament, there was 130 players. He goes, I guarantee you it would have boiled down to these 7 players.
Wow.
And
Including Shane Cunningham?
no, he didn't say that.
Oh.
But then before I left, because I was like, I got to go. Menard didn't want to stick around to watch the championship. I was like, man, I suck. I thought I was good. And he's like, don't you say that. He's like, you are an excellent player.
Aw.
And then he gave me the tier strategy. He's like, we all invented this. So now you'll always have this tier thing on you so you'll know. And he's like, and there's another tournament in Cleveland, November 16th, 17th. He's like, you got to be there.
Wow.
And he's like, there's a guy who kicks my ass and makes me feel the way these guys made you feel. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to start training for that tournament. But what I need is somebody who's listening to this or maybe in this room right now drinking a Perrier who's maybe exceptionally good at the game to help me train for this tournament.
Dan Rosenthal, are you exceptionally good at the game?
I'm not gonna say that. No.
Really? See, that's my whole theory. Guys who act all humble are secretly good at the game.
Mike on Much can be found on Twitter and Instagram at Mike on Much. You can subscribe to the show on any platform that has podcasts, Spotify. Do it.